We're getting some breaking news coming into the situation right now from about Michael Jackson, the king of pop.
The desperate 911 call came from inside Michael Jackson's rented mansion.
Who's 50 years old.
The king of pop has died.
It was just before 12:30 p.m.
Suffered cardiac arrest this afternoon. He was rushed to UCLA Medical Center.
At 12:21 this afternoon, the Los Angeles 911 operators took a call in regards to a need for a medical emergency.
Michael Jackson's cause of death.
Michael Jackson's personal doctor revealed his last words before dying. It wasn't a grand farewell, a dramatic final speech, or the whispered words of a man at peace. No. In his last moments, Michael Jackson, the king of pop, wasn't thinking about music, legacy, or the millions of fans who adored him. He was begging, pleading for what he called his milk. That milk wasn't anything you'd find in a kitchen fridge. It was propofol, a powerful hospital-grade anesthetic, and Michael Jackson's last fatal comfort. Dr. Conrad Murray, the man who stood by Jackson's side during his final moments, the man later convicted of involuntary manslaughter, was the one who finally revealed the heartbreaking truth.
I want to hear about this person you call your friend. You said you knew him better than anyone towards the end of his life, than anyone, correct?
Yes.
Did he share secrets with you?
Of course. The most hidden treasure trove of his life is with me. But I have protected Michael up till now.
In a rare and controversial interview, Murray spoke about what Jackson said before he slipped into unconsciousness, never to wake again. He was pleading and begging, Murray confessed. Please, please, let me have some milk. That was the only thing that would work. Nothing else worked anymore. In that tiny, desperate moment, one of the most famous human beings on Earth had been reduced to a frightened man, grappling with sleeplessness, fear, and a growing dependency on a drug no ordinary doctor would dare prescribe as a sleep aid. Michael wasn't thinking about awards or concerts. He was just a man begging for rest, and Conrad Murray gave it to him. It would be a decision that cost Jackson his life and shattered Murray's own forever. The days leading up to Jackson's death were far from glamorous. According to testimony, photographs, and Murray's own chilling recollections, Jackson was a shadow of himself. His skin, according to the coroner's report, showed the unmistakable blotches of vitiligo. His once luxurious hair had grown sparse, hidden beneath wigs sewn tightly to his scalp. His lips and eyebrows were permanently tattooed, maintaining the illusion of vibrancy even as his body deteriorated underneath. His bedroom, once a sanctuary, had transformed into something closer to an operating room. Oxygen tanks, scattered prescription bottles, IV stands, latex gloves, catheters, and disposable needles littered the space. It was not the setting of a superstar preparing for a grand comeback tour. It was the environment of a man slowly, painfully falling apart. Investigators who entered Jackson's rented home Hills mansion that night were stunned. Prescription drugs were strewn across the bedside tables. There were syringes, bloodied medical gauze, and half-empty vials of medications too powerful for anything less than intensive hospital use. But above it all, overshadowing every tragic detail, were Jackson's final words. Words not of defiance or wisdom, but of exhaustion and desperation. Please, please, let me have some milk. Murray's decision to speak out shocked many. He had chosen not to testify at his trial, a choice that left the Jackson family, the jury, and the public piecing together the story without his direct input. But in a paid-for television documentary, he laid it all bare. Murray described Jackson as frantic in those final hours.
That he was penniless. I was shocked. As it was that time when Michael came to me trembling and trying to get me away from the AGU official who was Randy Phillips. I was shocked out of state. I should have just picked my bags up and leave had I been looking for money, but it wasn't money. It was about the love of Michael. I have suffered a lot, there's no doubt about it, but I don't hate Michael. Michael did not do me wrong. He did not want this to happen to me. Whatever happened to Michael when I was not there?
Sleepless, anxious. Have you ever seen the Thriller image? Murray asked, referring to Jackson's legendary music video where he appears zombified. He looked that hysterical. The pop legend's insomnia was so severe that according to Murray, he hadn't truly slept for days. Jackson believed sincerely that without proper rest, he would not survive his grueling comeback performances at London's O2 Arena. His nerves were frayed, his body was rebelling, and his only solace was found in propofol, the milk he begged for. It was a request Murray, despite knowing the dangers, ultimately honored. He administered a dose of propofol diluted with sedatives, but the monitoring equipment wasn't up to standard. Resuscitation tools weren't on hand, and when things went wrong, and they did, there was no saving Michael. The autopsy was blunt. Michael Jackson died from acute propofol intoxication. The standard of care was not met. The precautions necessary to save his life weren't in place. Michael Jackson, a man who danced across stages in front of billions, who shattered racial barriers on MTV, who inspired generations, had died in a bedroom that looked more like a battlefield of addiction and medical negligence. The courtroom was electric when Murray finally faced charges. After 8 months of investigations, public outcry, and tabloid frenzy, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office formally charged him with involuntary manslaughter. If convicted, he faced 4 years in prison, the lightest sentence possible for a death, but the symbolic weight was enormous. Murray stood in front of the judge, clad in a gray suit, flanked by his legal team. Across the room, Jackson's entire family gathered, silent and grim. Catherine, Joe, Jermaine, Tito, Jackie, Randy, and LaToya. Their presence said everything words could not.
We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Conrad Robert Murray, guilty of the crime of involuntary manslaughter in violation of Penal Code Section 192, subsection B. Alleged victim, Michael Joseph Jackson, alleged date of June 25th, 2009, as charged in count 1 of the information.
Bail was set at $75,000. The court ordered Murray to stop administering sedatives entirely, though he was still allowed to practice cardiology. Protesters outside the courthouse screamed for justice, waving signs that read, "No special treatment for Conrad Murderer." The trial became a media circus. Every detail of Jackson's final hours was scrutinized. Every choice Murray made was questioned. But no matter how heated the arguments became, no one could erase those final moments. The desperate plea of a man whose body had been pushed too far for too long. What remains especially haunting is how ordinary Jackson's death was, in medical terms. No alien abductions, no assassination plots, no great conspiracy. In the end, it was exhaustion, dependency, and human error. It was a man who couldn't sleep and a doctor who chose to silence his cries with something too powerful to control. Murray's defense painted a tragic picture of Jackson's state of mind. They argued that he was a man determined to find rest at any cost, a man who insisted on treatments he didn't fully understand, but the law and the world held Murray accountable. As a doctor, it was his duty to say no, to protect his patient even from himself. Murray failed, and so Michael Jackson's final legacy was written not on stage, not in music videos, but in a desperate whisper for milk, a final plea to escape the torture of his own restless mind. Today, more than a decade after his death, fans still mourn Michael Jackson. His music plays on every continent, his dances are imitated by millions. His legacy, complicated as it is, remains undeniable, but behind the glitz and glamour, the world now knows the truth of how it ended. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. Please, please let me have some milk. A chilling, tragic end for the greatest entertainer the world has ever known. What are your thoughts? Were Michael's final moments a consequence of fame, pressure, and impossible expectations? Was it pure medical negligence, or was it an inevitable tragedy given the life Jackson had built? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your opinions. And if you found this story moving, heartbreaking, or revealing, subscribe to our channel. We'll keep diving deep into the untold stories behind music legends, their secrets, and the tragic truths hidden beneath the fame. Because sometimes, behind the world's biggest smiles, there are whispers the world was never meant to hear.